This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back to Goonies Minute, everybody. Goonies Minute is the fan podcast where we carefully explore the movie Goonies minute by minute. I'm Brady.
And this is Chris.
And today we are going over minute number 61 of the Goonies. Chris, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Excited to be just past an hour of this movie, but kind of surprised. I never realized how late into the movie Sloth shows up.
Yeah, I mean, we get that small introduction to him, and obviously towards the end, when he comes back in, he hits hard and he makes an impact. But yeah, he's not in the movie throughout.
Yeah.
But whenever he's around, you definitely know it. There's no question about that.
It's really strange because it takes a while for him to show up in this movie, and we're about to wrap up Jurassic Park Minute. I just realized in doing it that the kind of the main antagonist of the movie is the Velociraptors. They don't show up until very, very, very close to the end of the movie. And you don't see them before then.
You hear a little bit about
Yes,
it.
exactly. And so I just think it's funny that these two icons of both of these movies,
it's kind of similar.
It's kind of similar. They don't show up till later.
And I think, don't they show in Jurassic Park, they show a tooth or they show a fossil. They show
There's the
something.
claw. Yeah.
They show the claw.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's really your only preview of what's to come.
Yeah.
With Chunk, you get
Sloth.
Sloth, you get a little bit more, but you have a feeling that something dramatic is going to happen with that.
It's so strange because the connection here is Steven Spielberg. And so he's someone who kind of applies that technique to a lot of his movies. The shark in Jaws, you don't see till, 3/4 of the way to the movie. So, and, with all of these iconic figures of these three movies that he's, behind, it's interesting that he always chooses that technique, that method of going about teasing something that is going to be, a big player in the movie.
Right. And obviously it worked for him quite well.
Quite well. He was, all the way to the bank. All right, well, I tell you what, with that said, you want to get into the minute?
Let's get into the minute.
In the previous minute, the Goonies stumbled upon a room full of coins. They were sorely disappointed when they found out that it was not One-Eyed Willie's rich stuff. At minute 61, Bran discovers that they are at the bottom of an old wishing well. Mikey and Data begin to trade coins with one another. Steph steps forward and tells them that they can't, and that all of these coins represent someone else's wishes. Mouth takes out a coin that he has picked up and in protest tells Stephanie that this one represented his dream, a dream that never came true. Mikey shouts out to One-Eyed Willie in frustration. He asks if this is just another one of his tricks. As the minute ends, we see the Fratellis sitting around eating ice cream with Chunk. Jake says that they should consider letting him live, and thus ends minute 61 of the Goonies. Okay, so, we're down in the wishing well of, what does Bran call it, Old Moss Garden? The Old Moss Garden wishing well?
Real quick, how would he know that?
Yeah. He's got a pretty good sense of geography, if he can identify that.
But that just baffled me.
Maybe there's only one wishing well in Astoria?
Obviously, it's the Old Moss Garden wishing well. It's the only thing I can think of.
He has an amazing sense of geography in that he can determine where he is based on nothing, or there's only one garden and one wishing well in all of Astoria.
It's one of the most significant things he's done so far.
Yeah, pretty much. Identified where they are. That's a very good question. Very, very, very good question. So
anyway, I interrupted your your point that you were about to make in the beginning.
That's fine. The minute starts off with Steph kind of schooling everybody on that you can't take these pennies away in these quarters. These represent someone else's wishes. And Mouth makes the point that, hey, well, this was mine, and it didn't come true. And, I mean, the obvious interpretation there is that he's talking about, please don't let my home get demolished. Is that how you see it, or do you think he's talking about something else?
I happen to think he's talking about something else. I think that's an easy way to look at it, and maybe that's true, or maybe that's one of the things. But I think he's talking about something else. Something that we don't know about.
Something independent.
Something with his family. Something independent of all the Goonies. That's the way I feel. It's hard to ever know.
You get an idea that there's a backstory, kind of almost like a tragic backstory to Mouth.
Yeah, and he's really adamant. I mean, if you look at how angry he got with Steph.
Yeah.
And then you look at how he reacted when he picked up that coin. Separate from that, is this the strangest looking person with water on their face that you've ever seen? It's almost like there's a gel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like
slime.
an oily face slick. It's disgusting.
It's kind of gross.
I have noticed that ever since I watched this movie for the first time as a kid, how disgusting this individual looks with water on his face. I don't know, it bothered me. It's always bothered me and grossed me out ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like the way he looks in this.
I'll tell you what bothers me is he dives right back down into that water with that kick-ass members-only jacket on. Like, no concern for it. He just goes right down into the water.
Like he says, and I do want to go back and look at a couple things
Sure.
here, but he says, he's like, I'm taking them all back. Like, is he about to dive down and try to grab all the coins that he can? That's what I'm wondering.
I guess that's what
he doesn't care about anybody's wishes or anything. But what happens before that, I wanted to say, is that I think this is one of Steph's most independently large part in this movie where the focus was on her.
And she's right. She's got a good point.
She is, and she really, like, a lot of her stuff so far has been trivial. And she did have a big part when she grabbed the newspaper article with the Fratellis.
That's right, yeah.
That was her biggest point up to this point so far. But even in that scene, she wasn't isolated. In this situation, this is the first time that she spoke with authority. So Steph says, you can't do that. These are someone else's wishes and dreams. And they really focus in on her. And then we have that situation with Mouth after that. But another thing that I thought was kind of goofy, Andy says, I used to always think when you threw your money in it, in a wishing well, it turned into your wish. It's like, thank you for that amazing definition of what a wishing well is. I had no idea. And it's like, it was so goofy.
And the music that's just a little
And it's like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, it's like, what is that? Did we really? It's like, oh, now we know what the wishing well is. Thank you for telling us that, Andy. Anyway, so after Mouth has his little rant, and he jumps in to try to, I guess, take all of the coins back, then you have a situation where Mikey, for the first time, is talking out loud to One-Eyed Willie to where everyone can hear. He's had a couple of situations where he's kind of talked under his breath to One-Eyed Willie, kind of looked up. Well, this time he is outwardly talking loud and looking up to One-Eyed Willie, and he's got a real connection. He's like, where is the treasure? So I think it furthers that relationship with Mikey and One-Eyed Willie of trying to outdo one another, like you said in the last minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
and then you were about to say switching back to the Fratellis.
Yeah, that's right. So then we get back to the Fratellis, and it seems like things have calmed down a little bit up there. And Chunk is just sitting there like eating the ice cream, and Jake is also eating some. He's actually using his finger, which is kind of gross. But he says, Ma, I think we should keep Chunk alive just in case,
Right.
So Jake is really, we're seeing more of the sociopath here, and the fact that this guy is on just polar opposite ends. There's never an in-between. He's either going to be this, like, caring person or just the most demented person ever. And so I think it's funny that because, he was enjoying Chunk's presence in the last minute.
Right, and this proved what I thought earlier, that he doesn't really want to hurt Chunk. Now, he's also not going to stand in the way of his mother and his brother.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, you can tell he really doesn't want it. I wonder if he really wants to keep him alive for the reason he states. What was it?
I think
can't remember what it
he
was.
might be of some use.
Yeah, that's not why he wanted to keep him alive.
Yeah.
He just wanted to come up with a reason to keep him alive because he kind of liked him.
Because he kind of liked him, yeah. He thought it was funny.
Yeah. But then, Ma agrees.
That's true. And that's where the minute ends. You got anything else?
That's pretty much all for me. I've rambled on enough in this minute.
Well, welcome to Goonies Minute. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for minute number 61. We'll be back tomorrow for minute number 62 of the Goonies. And until then, this is Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we're here to remind you that Goonies never say die. Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram at GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at Patreon.com/PeleMedia. Check us out on Facebook at Facebook.com/PeleMedia and follow us on Twitter at Twitter.com/PeleMedia.